Lesson 7, Pixel Art. Here's the lesson overview. This is what's due on Monday, May 18. You have to insert a picture of your planning sketch on slide 3, your completed artwork on slide 4, and your final thoughts on slide 5. I'll go over what all of that means, don't worry. Here's the performance-based objective for our lesson. Students will be able to design and create pixel characters in order to practice and reinforce digital art making techniques. So in class we practice a lot of physical art making techniques, but today we're going to be doing it all on the computer. You might be asking yourself, what is pixel art? What is Ms. Bauman talking about? Pixel art is a form of digital art that focuses on one thing, the humble pixel. Your computer monitor and smartphone screens are made up of thousands of tiny little pixels. Pixels are tiny squares that change color in response to the image displayed on your screen. So if you squint hard enough at your screen right now, you can probably see them on your device. When video games became popular in the 1980s, computer game developers only had a limited number of pixels and colors to work with. These technological limitations are why the first, second, and third generation of video game characters kind of looked blocky. You can see what I mean in these pictures below. But the children and adults who played video games back then didn't really care about the graphics. And I'd make an argument that their original design forms a large part of why video games are still popular today. We're going to look at one particular artist called Space Invader. Space Invader is a street artist. He often makes artwork outside, specifically on the street, in cities around the globe. We'll talk about what that means regarding legality. When Space Invader puts his work in public, he's sometimes putting it on private buildings, which isn't legal. There are other times, however, when his work is commissioned, which means that they are paid for by a museum, an organization, or a company. We're going to watch a couple of videos about this artist. Because his artwork isn't always legal, he can't show his face or he's going to get into some trouble. So he wears a mask in these videos. It's a little creepy. I'm sorry about that, but don't be scared. He's just trying to protect his identity.
The name of the game is Space Invaders, and I'm invading space, public space. Then it was very logical, and for almost 10 years now, I'm invading the planet with Space Invaders characters that I put on walls all around the world.
If I ruled the earth, if I ruled the earth.
If there was not artists like me to make things in the street, there would be only advertising everywhere. And advertising is just kind of Big Brother. It's not to make people happy or to show nice pictures, just to make you spend your money and to make you buy. I think it's a chance. That's why I think I'm not a vandal or what I'm doing. It's good for the population because it's an alternative to the advertising.
Invader is the pseudonym for this French artist who was born in the late 60s. He makes artwork inspired by the first video game characters from the 1970s and 1980s. Invader wants to bring the digital world into reality. He sees himself as a hacker of public space, spreading a virus of mosaic. So many of you might know what mosaics are. They are tiles that make up a larger work of art. He believes that museums and galleries are not accessible to everyone, which they aren't, so he installs his work in places where the public can see it. Space Invader believes that he's beautifying the streets, and taking away from advertising. He isn't just scribbling on other people's property. I wonder what you think about that. Do you think that this is legal or is it ethical? Take a look. You can see on the bottom right corner of the screen this map where it shows all of the different cities where he has invaded and put his art.
Paris is under invasion from some familiar-looking aliens. Both futuristic and retro, these UFOs are straight out of the early video game and cult icon Space Invaders. The French street artist Invader named himself after the game, and for 15 years he's been running his own art project, which has seen these creatures springing up in cities all over the world. Now he's about to complete his 1000th Space Invader in Paris, which is holding a retrospective to mark the occasion.
Pourquoi le Space Invader?
Why Space Invaders? It's true, you could read a lot into it, but for me it represents the first steps of digital, the first video games, from which everything else followed, computers, the internet.
Les ordinateurs, etc.
In this exhibition, the Space Invaders are everywhere, on fridges, at discos, even on your shoes. There's photos of all of them, from the first to land in 1996 down to the last, which is still being finished just a few hours before the exhibition opens. It's an unusual body of work, even among other street artists.
I didn't come from graffiti, so I'm not a graffiti artist. I've always defined myself as someone who invades. Above all, of course, I see myself as an artist.
With the 1000th Space Invader finished, Invader himself is now moving on. His new project also draws on a retro pop culture classic. These works are all created using a Rubik's Cube. He calls the style Rubik's Cubism.
It's really an icon of my generation. Everyone who grew up in the 80s had one of these in their hands, and I actually find myself doing the Rubik's Cube for hours in my workshop, just like a painter mixing up new colours.
With a retrospective on in Paris and a promising new direction to explore, Invader is hoping he can take his place among the big names of street art like Britain's Banksy. And with his UFOs already invading more respectable galleries, he may not have long to wait.
I thought you guys would really like that video because I know some of you like to use Rubik's Cubes. So this artist, clearly a lot of his work involves different themes, like the Rubik's Cube is a theme that he uses, but one of his main themes are these little signature aliens. So that's one big trend in his artwork, and one that we're going to be looking at more today. So although many of his work feature aliens, no two pieces are alike. Here are a bunch of Space Invader artworks that are around New York City. So you can see there are some aliens, like this one over here, but there are also different characters. So start thinking about this as inspiration for your artwork. Are there characters from cartoons, movies, video games that you play today that you would want to show? And I think you guys all know this character pretty well. Here's one more movie.
Okay, my name is Invader. My mission is to invade the planet with video games characters made with tiles that I put on walls of big cities all around the world. I'm in 40 different cities, I would say maybe 30 different countries. But when I go and invade a new city, I don't go and just put 2 or 3 pieces in the center town. It's like a mission. I really stay at least 2-3 weeks in the cities, and I try to spread the invasion all around the city. My style is to play with pixel aesthetic, and I use tiles because it's a perfect material to be put outside. Mm-hmm. It is very permanent. It is made to be put outside.
So here's your challenge. Design and create your own pixel character. It can be a made-up character. It can be one that already exists. This is your choice. Before you even start step 1, which is to create a sketch of your final pixel art, you have to decide what you're going to do your sketch on. If you have a printer at home, totally understandable if you don't. you can print out grid paper from this website called Incompetech. So it's incompetech.com. And you can literally just download a PDF and press print. If you don't, that is totally okay. You can do this in your sketchbook on plain paper like I did. I drew a large square on the paper and then I divided it into about 15 to 20 squares. It's a sketch, so it doesn't have to be perfect. On the right, you'll see some examples from previous classes. If we were in the classroom, I would give you paper. So step 1 is to make a plan. Pick a character and sketch out your artwork. This will help you visualize your character in pixels. Can you tell who I chose for mine? Once you've created your sketch, enter a picture of your sketch in slide 3 in your Google Slides doc. This is worth 30% of your grade. So if you aren't sure how to insert a picture, here are 2 videos on how to do it. So make sure you watch these videos, which give simple steps on how to upload a picture into your Google Slides doc. Okay, I backed out a little bit so that you can see the entire page. Here is where you're going to create your pixel art. This is slide 4 of your presentation. So if you are missing this top row of options where it says File, Edit, View, Insert, if you can't see that on your screen, it means that the menu is hidden. So you can look for this little up bit or this little arrow over here. It's going to be down if that menu is hidden. And just click it to show these options. Next, notice that I have written out notes. These are written down directions, but I'm also going to show you in this video how to create your pixel art. Here we are on the page where you're going to make your pixel art. As a reminder, I'm going to be recreating Tina Belcher. I'm going to keep referring back to that sketch I just made of Tina. So my sketch will be in the lower right-hand corner of the screen the whole time. Work with your sketch right next to you so that you know what your plan is and you don't get lost. Before we jump in, I have to show you how to insert color. Don't be intimidated, it isn't hard. Click on the square to select it, find that little bucket symbol, and then you can choose which color you want it to be. Now if you've decided you've made a mistake, all you have to do to undo is go to Edit and then press that first button that says Undo at the top. So here we go again. I'm going to fill this with color. I go to the bucket symbol, choose the color I want, and voila. Now you can also do multiple boxes at once. Hold down the Shift button as you select each box that you want to fill with color. Here's one last pro tip if you're feeling adventurous. If you're not satisfied with the color options available, you can make customized colors. Click that bucket, go to Custom at the bottom, and then you can choose from a whole range of shades, tints, and hues. This was really helpful for me in finding the perfect color for Tina's hair. Last thing before we start, make sure you're not dragging these boxes because you see that they'll move with your mouse. So if that happens, go to Edit, Undo. Also, be careful not to press backspace when you are highlighting cells because that will delete them. So again, if you delete them by accident, just undo. We're going to work from the top of our pixel art to the bottom of the page. I'm going to start with the biggest shape, which is obviously Tina's head and her hair. So you see here that I'm filling in a certain number of squares with that custom color that I decided on earlier. So now I'll continue down to the second row where I'll do another layer of Tina's hair. you'll see that I'm increasing the number of pixels that I color in each row so that I'm creating like a kind of pyramid shape, but it's also kind of a rounded shape for Tina's hair. Okay, well that's basically it. You just keep doing that same thing the entire way through. So keep referring back to your drawing and make sure that your subject fills the entire grid. There should be very little space around the edges. You'll see I do put in a background color eventually, but the character should take up the majority of this grid. The bigger the character is, the more details you'll be able to fit in. Remember that the entire grid should be colored in at the end, unless there are specific spots that are white, but make sure there's a background behind your character. Here you go, here's my work from start to finish. Once you are done with your pixel art, move on to slide 5, Final Thoughts. Answer in full sentences. So first give your pixel art a title, and remember you can type right onto this slide, blah blah blah, there's your title. I'm going to change that back to green just so it's easier to tell the difference between the answer and the question. Okay, what was it like to create digital artwork? Again, select where it says type your response here, and you can type your response right over that. So, I had a blank 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 time creating this artwork. Continue your thought. If you could post your pixel art somewhere in the world, where would you put it? And what is one surprising thing you learned about the artist Space Invader in this assignment? Last but not least, your work is going to save automatically, but remember to press Turn It In after you're done with your assignment.